Yeah, good mate. I can't wait for this game week. To be fair, especially because we've just had Champions League and there's lots of interesting stuff that's happened. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this game week goes.
Absolutely. Well, we won't keep you waiting any longer. We will get underway now. So, fantasy managers, hello and welcome back to the Game Week 13 preview show by FPL Addicts, sponsored by Bonus Bank. For the 2021 and 2022 Premier League season. A bit of housekeeping before we begin. A reminder that we release a full game week playlist every single week on our YouTube, which includes the Guru's team selection, this podcast, and the Guru Scout 11. If you haven't already watched them this week, make sure you go and do so. There's heaps of FPL content over on the YouTube as well, so it's really worth a look. And whether you're listening or watching or you're in the Twitter space, and if you enjoy it, make sure you like us, subscribe us, follow us, whatever you can do on whatever platform you're viewing on, and that you can help us reach a much broader audience and help more FPL managers just like you. So we will get into it, and we'll start with the results review. So we'll get into it. The share screen is up on the screen there. So Reedy, we will start with you from game week 12. Was there a fixture that really popped out at you?
It was a good game week, wasn't it? But I think the one that kind of stuck out was that Burnley Crystal Palace game. I know you had the Newcastle boys who you support. It was a brilliant game as well, but that Burnley Crystal Palace was just, you didn't know which way it was going to go. And a lot of fantasy managers would have been happy with the likes of, Cornet delivering and, Gallagher getting an assist. Benteke obviously got on the score sheet. Can't stop the man at the moment. So, yeah, that's the game for me.
Yeah, I think, no one really expected that to be a 3-0, did they really? If you'd asked someone before the game, they probably would have told you a 1-0 or a 0-0 from those two sides. So a lot of people really didn't expect that, did they?
Not at all, mate. Not at all. How often did Burnley, score 3 goals? So, Palace are sort of they're in form, if you like, at the moment. But, it was just end-to-end game, goals galore, and that's what we love to see.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the Premier League seems to be about these days, isn't it? There's a lot less defending and a lot more attacking, a lot more entertaining football. So we'll go to you, Guru, for your pick of the game that really popped out at you for game week 12.
Look, there's so many this week, but I'm going to take this one just so Jack, just to make him feel a little bit better about himself. I'm going to go Watford 4, Manchester United 1. What a result that was. Even Ben Foster got in on the action at the end. So I've got to take that one. There were so many point scorers in this one. Josh King got a goal. Dennis got 14 points. Donny van der Beek sort of come in and got his first goal as well this season. Ronaldo got everyone an assist. But like I mentioned before, that Foster assist at the end was just, was someone else. Not sure how much of an assist it actually was. But this result has got to be the pick for me. I know Man United's form hasn't been great, but I did not expect 4-1 to Watford in this one. And also actually shout out to David De Gea for saving 2 penalties as well.
Yeah, if you had David De Gea in your team, you probably didn't end up having too bad of a week in terms of your goalkeeper because he would have got the penalty save points. But unfortunately, he did also concede 4. So it was a very mixed day at the office. And obviously, Jack, it did lead to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer finally getting the sack. Probably the best move going forward, in my opinion. Just want to get your opinion on it while we've got you, the resident Man United fan on the podcast. So what do you make of it?
Yeah, obviously it was on thin ice, wasn't it? Or the ice was broken, as you could say. He was any more results like he was getting against Liverpool and City. You come into Watford, he has to win. He has to take all 3 points, and he hasn't delivered. And he's had to go. And he's paid for it with his job. Ollie's progressed us. We were in a right mess 3 seasons ago. So I think I am thankful for that. But he took us as far as he could. I think obviously being a legend in the club, we were looking for him to. No one wants to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, right? He is a legend. He's the guy who delivered us the treble pretty much with the last minute win. But he had to go. So it's time for a change. I'm not too sure. I didn't take too kindly to Matt throwing that in there, but I couldn't. When I saw the score in the morning, I was a bit worse for wear after a few shandies on Saturday night. So I looked at the score in the morning. I thought, I'm not watching that. And Ole Gunnar needs to go. But onwards and upwards, we'll take the win, obviously, against Villarreal. Happy days with that, a good result. Carrick showed that he's got a bit of a plan B as the interim. I'm not too sure United directors or CEO's got a plan B, so we'll see where that takes us over the next week or two. And listen, I just want to obviously flip the conversation now and go Newcastle Brentford 3-3. What a game! Heaps of goals. Elliot, thoughts?
It was a lot better from Newcastle. Attacking, we looked a lot more comfortable on the ball. You could already sort of see. Just the 2 weeks that Eddie Howe had, unfortunately, he couldn't be there because he did have COVID. And there is a couple of rumours that he might not be able to be there for the Arsenal game because I think it's 10 days quarantine you've got to do in England. So it depends, obviously, if he returns a negative test or whatever for the weekend. But that is the early kickoff, but we'll get onto the fixtures in just a little bit. But yeah, it was definitely, it was clear to see that attacking, we still look great. We look better going forward. We looked a lot more comfortable. But you could just see where the issues are, and the issues are in the defence, the defending for the first goal and the goalkeeping for the first goal, Ivan Toney's goal, which I'm sure pleased a lot of FPL managers. I was just recoiling watching it. I think Dubravka's got to go back in net for the weekend against Arsenal. Don't know what Darlow was doing. He seems to, when Dubravka's out and injured, he seems to do all right, Darlow. But when he's sort of got that little bit of pressure, he doesn't seem to cope too well with it. But yeah, calamitous defending, but we looked good going forward, and it was a point at home. We needed 3 probably, but it was an entertaining game. It was really end to end stuff. So it wasn't the worst game of football to watch as a neutral, and it was nice to see Joel Linton get on the score sheet. I spoke to the guru a little bit about him. He's going to be the FPL asset now. He's going to overtake Salah, isn't he, Guru? With points scored this season. It's all about Joel Linton.
It is all about Joel Linton. This is his time, right? It's got to be better late than never.
I mean, 2 years, we could have been having that for 2 years, but, obviously it was the man, Steve Bruce, that, he was hiding a beast the whole time because he knew he had the power to destroy him. But Jack, Steve Bruce to Manchester United, is that the move?
Hey, let's get him in. As a centre, Steve Bruce, centre half. Let's sort Harry Maguire out. Get Steve Bruce in. Get him in that back line and get us 19 goals from centre back. Come on, Brucey. No, in all seriousness, Bruce is probably not the one, but he's a legend. I do love him, and he's brought that forward line together, hasn't he? That Joe Linton, St. Maximin, and Callum Wilson. That's all Steve Bruce is making that one. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, that's one of the credits that I do give him, is that he definitely managed to sign a couple of good players. So, whether the players regressed that were already there underneath his management is a different story. But he did definitely manage to attract some decent players to the club. No one knows how, but he did end up managing to do that. So that is the result of the week, and there was so many FPL points, so many goals flying in this weekend. So we can hope for more of the same this weekend. But we'll move on to the paid league, the paid mini league that we've got, and reviewing that, and it's again even more competitive just by the week. It's been brought up on the screen there. Donald Breslin with no Kane, no gain, remains top. Guru, a bit disappointing this week. While we're on the topic of Kane, a lot of people brought him in. Hopefully Ollie jumps on a little bit later, because I do want to mention something that he said about Harry Kane right before he went to sleep on that Sunday. But it was a little bit disappointing to see he wasn't on the score sheet again, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of talk about him on Twitter in the FPL world, and that they thought this could be the game that sort of bounced back. So it was disappointing. Look, he did hit the post in the second half, but look, another blank. It is disappointing, but fingers crossed this up and coming game week he can finally find the back of the net.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick reminder, if you are tuning on live through the Twitter space, this is the live podcast that we do every single week. So if you fancy hopping over onto YouTube, we can reply to your comments there and interact with you a little bit more. There might be some time for some discussion in the end with the space, but I'm not too sure just as of yet. But obviously, if you can make your way over to the YouTube, it'll probably enhance your experience a little bit better. So every single detail that you need is in the link tree of the FPL Addicts pod Twitter space. So get yourself over there. But Geordie Wilson sits there in second, and Steve Ward, who's a name who's come to life in the past couple of weeks. He's had a couple of good weeks. I've been tracking him in the mini leagues. He's been doing quite well, Jack. He's been getting himself up there, and he earned himself third heading into game week 13. So he's done a good job, hasn't he?
Yeah, Wardy's boys are looking really good in there. He's got a strong back line. He's James, Cancelo, and Alexander-Arnold. Salah in midfield. He brought obviously Yotta's in there as well. He's got a front line of Armstrong and Tony, who looked all right the weekend too. But Harry Kane, if he'd hit the weekend and didn't hit the bar, he would have even gone better in there. So yeah, Wardy's picked up one of our FPL Managers of the Week awards already. Got himself a little cash prize. So he's definitely one to look out for, and he's definitely keeping the pressure on Geordie and Donald. That's a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're on the topic of the prize, the Game Week 12 Manager of the Week has gone to a playoff. It's between Donal and Darren Wickham and Kieran King. So we've got a three-way tie for Manager of the Week and the $20 cash prize. So we'll have to wait to see who scores the most points in Game Week 13 to see who is awarded that prize pool. But really, three-way tie this week, it really just shows how competitive this league is, doesn't it?
It certainly does, Elliot. It's hotting up nicely for that Game Week 13 and makes sort of these managers who are in the running for that prize, their decisions even more important. Maybe they do want to, of course, bag that prize, but, it has an impact on the remainder of the season for them as well. So it's brilliant that we've got that competitive sort of side in this league. Just goes to show with some of the high scores from the last game week. The standards, that are set are really brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. And just a quick shout out to Ozspike there, who did comment before. We did bring it up on screen, but if you are listening along in the Twitter space, he sort of just sits there just on the screen in ninth, he tells us. So top work to you, mate, and really well done. But as I say every single week, the paid league is really, really shaping up as we sort of approach near the halfway mark of the season. It's going to be interesting to see, how many people start to drop off maybe, and who can really go for it at this time. But the free league is also shaping up, and if the paid league is competitive, the free league is even more competitive. FPL Planner sits there top of the league guru. He is having a brilliant season. 83 points this week. He's 15 points shy of the 900 point mark. That's absurd, isn't it?
Oh, unbelievable by FPL Planner. He really knows his stuff, and his team's just so consistent every week. And I'm really excited to see what moves he makes this week with the Chilwell injury. And definitely keeping a close eye on his side. 83 points this week's just remarkable, and that's even without the Harry Kane goals as well. Because I know he's had Harry Kane for a while. So he's going to get even bigger scores. His FPL Planner once Kane starts bagging the goals again. So well done to the Kong.
Yeah, absolutely. Hats off to you, mate. That's an outrageous score for this time in the season. So you're really doing quite well there. But if we move on to the Women's Mini League, there hasn't been too much movement this week. It's sort of staying the same, but there were some big scores again. There was 2 70s at the top of the league there, 79 down in 6th, and just like FPL Planner, a lot of these people should have been entering into that paid league because they would have earned themselves quite a bit of cash now. FPL Planner especially, you've got to get yourself in the paid league for next season. You would be stealing a living at this point with that score. So it would be absolutely ridiculous if you didn't do so. It's definitely one to watch for next week. But we'll move on to the fun league, as I like to call it. And unfortunately, I sort of take pride in how I'm doing in this league. I have been defeated this week by the Guru, so I didn't manage to pick myself up 3 points. I checked before, Matt, and unfortunately, I'm still sitting in 6th. Pizza Boy still sits at the top with 812 points and 30 points overall. Donald Breslin sits there in 2nd, and Aaron Wu rounds off the top 3 with 27 points as well. And there's still not really much movement, down this league, lads. I think the Guru's sitting there 21 points, so you're still 6 shy of me, Matt. But you're sort of happy with how your performance is going in this league so far. It's a bit hit and miss, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And look, for those on Spaces that don't know much about this league, it's our head-to-head mini league sponsored by Bonus Bank, and basically it's our 30 of our members are in this league, and we're all sort of playing each other every week. And I'm sitting around mid-table, aren't I, in 10th. It's a tough one, this. I find the head-to-head, you just never know, who you're going to get, or on any given week. It's just a lot tougher than say a classic league, and everyone's kind of all over the place on this.
Yeah, absolutely is. And obviously there's a lot of people listening in this Twitter space that are in all of these leagues as well. So big shout out to you. And, if people aren't in the leagues for this season, there is always next year, as FPL Planner has just said, in the live comments. He probably sits there with a grin thinking about how much cash he could earn just by entering into these leagues. And I do not blame you at all, because with that score, that would be absolutely ridiculous. And just a quick reminder before we move on to our scores for the week, if you are listening on the Twitter space, you can always make your way over to the YouTube using the link tree in the bio of the FPL Addicts podcast account there. But we will move on now to our hauls for the week. And there were some big scores from us. I think most people managed to get above the average. Dave had 67 there. I managed to get 62 points. So I'm just 11 points shy of Jack. But in terms of my team for this week, was delighted with the Ben Foster assist at the end. Because he sort of, unfortunately, he conceded one, which was a bit of a shame. He might have been on for a couple of bonus, maybe, if he did manage to keep the clean sheet. But there was goals galore, so don't take my word on that one. But an assist, you take that, 5 points from your goalkeeper, and he's just playing this week because Sanchez got a red card. So, I'm absolutely delighted with that. Other than that, the defence, Manquillo didn't play, unfortunately, so I've got to sort of figure out what to do with him. I'm hoping that Marcel is going to be fit for this week because he's sitting on my bench. And Livramento, obviously, they conceded 2 away at Norwich, which was a little bit surprising. I think a lot of people were a little bit shocked by that. But Trent Alexander-Arnold and Ben Chilwell did the heavy lifting in the defence for me this week. They had 24 points between them. Chilwell, unlucky not to score. 3 minutes in, he was bearing down on goal, hit the crossbar. So I think he would definitely have stolen all 3 of the bonus points if he managed to get that goal and the assist for Rudiger's header as well. In terms of the midfield, Son, he's blanked again. He's on the chopping block for me. I brought him in 3 weeks ago, and it's an interesting one. I'm sticking with him because I've got such good fixtures now, but, I'm losing patience with him. I want to get, those premium defenders like Cancelo and all that sort of stuff. So it's an interesting one. I don't know how much longer I can wait with him.
You can't be serious, El.
0 points.
You can't be sending him on his way already. Surely not.
Getting rid of Son?
Yeah, really?
I'm losing patience, mate. I'm losing patience. I've got to watch. I've watched Spurs play on the weekend, and he didn't do too bad for himself. He was probably unlucky not to get a couple of points, but Cancelo's just so good in FPL at the minute, and you saw him this morning again.
Yeah.
Against PSG, and if a defender can be doing that, I'm not sitting here with 9 million in Son in my midfield when I can be getting Cancelo, and upgrading my defense a little bit. So just it's making me think a little bit. I'm not going to make a rash decision. I'm conservative with transfers, so I'm not going to be too early.
I'd be surprised in there because I brought him in last week for the fixtures coming up, right? Obviously, Conte's coming now. This is the manager bounce, I guess. Obviously, Son, we know what he's capable of. I feel like he is going to be starting to hit in these next set of fixtures. You've got Burnley, Brentford, Norwich, Brighton, Leicester. You just feel like this is Son's time. So I'd love for you to stay patient with him. But hey, listen, if you take him out, no worries, mate. I'll take the points and I'll keep rising up that ladder, hopefully.
Yeah, I think, the thing with Spurs is that, they didn't have a shot on target in that first half again. And, it's been sort of a running theme, hasn't it, Guru, for the past couple of games. But, it looks like it's changed now. You managed to get the 3 points. You're on a win streak, as we'll call it. You got the 1 win. So, do you reckon you can keep it up and your man Son and your man Harry Kane can start firing for our FPL teams a little bit?
Yeah, look, I hope so. I think they should do it at some point. I think I read, a stat, the second half we had 11 shots or 11 attempts, which is the most Spurs have had all season. It's probably more than what they've had in all the games combined. So, I think these next 3 fixtures are looking good with the Burnley, Brentford and Norwich games. So if there's games for them to get points and to start firing, these are them. So, I think it's time to potentially play the fixtures and, get one of Son and Kane in.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously with my forwards there, if you are listening on the Twitter space and you can't see it, Ronaldo with the 5 points and Jimenez with the 8, he is turning into some sort of beast again. Raul Jimenez, he's on absolute fire at the minute. I was trying to contemplate taking him out as well, but he's got 2 good fixtures coming up. So, that might be the end of the line for him after that. But if he keeps up this sort of form, he is not going to be leaving my team because he is a bargain at the minute. And then obviously Wilson with the 1 point, he was unlucky. He had one cleared off the line by Ivan Toney, which I wasn't best pleased about for an FPL and a footballing sense. But, you make a really good point, Wing L on the YouTube, needs strength in depth on the bench. And I absolutely agree with you because there was 2 players for me that didn't play this week. Marcel has got the flag off of him now, so he's probably freeing up a little bit of space for me. But I definitely do need some strength on the bench. And Douglas Luiz with the injury as well. So, when I played my wild card, I brought those two in. Douglas Luiz was getting a couple of assists from corners and that sort of stuff, but they found themselves getting injured, which was a little bit unlucky for me. But obviously, Marcel's back now. It looks like he's fit. He's ready to play. So I'm fingers crossed that he plays this week. And if not, you never know what Eddie Howe's going to do. He might play Manquillo. Wasn't all impressed by Jacob Murphy on the weekend, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does get dropped or if he does decide to play him again. So it's going to be an interesting one. But that was sort of how my week went, boys. 62 points for me, above the average. I was looking for like a proper good green arrow going into the last day, and unfortunately did take a red arrow overall. But you know what they say, you've got to take the rough with the smooth. But Jack, 56 points for you this week. So talk us through your team, mate.
Yeah, obviously not the greatest score in comparison. As long as I'm about beating Reedy in the week, it's not too bad. But so with my team, 5 at the back ended up with Chilwell, Alexander-Arnold and Cancelo. Obviously the haul was good there. I did captain Son. Now obviously I know Son's up for debate in your team, Ellen, you captained him as well. He's probably, listen, I'm probably not going to put the armband on him this week, but took a bit of a gamble, thought it might work well, didn't pay off, but that's what it's all about, right? It's the fun in what we do, and you deal with the frustrations later. Salah obviously hit 8 for me, and Buemo delivered nothing for us again, and Hwang, Vardy and Jesus didn't even get on the pitch, so a bit of a waste in that respect. But it's I'm trying to build up these transfers, but with Chilwell injury being thrown in now, it's kind of thrown my plan out the window. I'm going to have to adapt, which I might be able to tell you about shortly. But listen, happy with the defence now. It's strong. The fullbacks are delivering, just except for this Chilwell injury, which obviously probably 30-40% of managers have got this issue now.
Yeah, it's a really potent issue this week. It's going to be all the discussion. Obviously, he's quite high owned, Chilwell, and he was just coming into some really good form, found himself back into the team, so really unlucky for him. For everyone listening, we'll get onto that discussion just a little bit later after we go through our transfers, our captains, and have the guru section. So we'll discuss, sort of the best options to go from Chilwell, and we'll get onto that in just a little bit. But Jack, were you sort of happy with how you went this week? I've just checked your bench. You did play Ramsdale over Foster. Was that sort of back in your own team in a little bit, and just sort of backfired for you?
Yeah, I mean, it did backfire because I did do it the other week. I spoke on the podcast last week. The Ramsdale Foster, when I changed it the other week in was it game week 10? I think before the international break. I think when everyone's making the switch over that week for the game week. And then Ramsdale ended up having an absolute crazy game, didn't he? Hold like 10 plus points. And Foster got nothing. And then I thought I'd keep the faith with Ramsdale, thinking he'd get the save points and do bits. And then it was the opposite. Obviously, United absolutely flopped against Watford. And Foster got 5 points in there. So, yeah, it didn't work well in that respect. And obviously, Jesus not getting on the pitch, not great. And then I've got Longstaff and Allen who were doing absolutely nout for me. So my bench is dead, really. So I do need these transfers. I need these transfers and these game weeks to come thick and fast so I can make some moves without taking too many hits. Obviously, Everton, I don't think I've won since game week 6. So Allen's not doing much since then. And Longstaff, you'll know more than me, El, how he's going to play a part in Howe's plans or not. I've no idea. But 56 isn't too bad, but it's not great because I was 1 below the average. But I'm in the mix, and that's where I kind of want to be each time with the game week points, the average.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously with the festive period nearly among us, there's going to be fixtures coming thick and fast, Jack. So, your wish has been granted by Santa at this point, and maybe you'll be having a much brighter festive period for you. But we'll move on to you now, Reedy. 61 points this week, just one below me. So you're sitting 22 points above me in the league. All up, you've got 744 overall points. Because you made 4 transfers and you took 5 mistakes back.
Oh God, love it. Didn't pay off, as we know now. TAA and Cancelo doing bits again. Chilwell as well. So I had quite a few good players that got me returns. They're just kind of not the ones that I really needed. I'm just having a look there. Oh yeah, Brozier. So did Brozier come in for Jesus because Jesus didn't play? Is that right? Brozier came on. He got a couple of minutes or something, didn't he? Jesus. But yeah, so I did all right. You know, my captain choice wasn't great. Son, I picked him. I went with the risk like Jack Gillibrand did, and it backfired. But listen, I'm still above him. And, you know, as we know now, Carrick's at the wheel. So, you know, it's all good from a United point of view, isn't it, Jack? So, yeah, -8 takes me down to, what is it, 53, something like that. So realistically, it's not a great game week, below the average, and I'm hungry for more come this game week. I'm torn between making moves, but you know, we'll touch upon that later.
Next minute, -12 from Reedy.
No, listen, come on. I'm trying to take a leaf out of Elliot's book here, you know, with the whole rollover and being, you know, quite reserved and calm. But listen, it's FPL. You know, Chilwell's injured now, as we all know. So that throws a spanner in the works. Foden's got a bit of a question mark over him. So that's another, you know, sort of fire that you want to put out. And captain choice is probably going to be Salah for most people. But like I say, we'll discuss that shortly, I suppose.
Reedy, I found sorry, Elliot. I was listening to a podcast earlier, and Jermaine Beckford was on there, right? And he's playing a bit of fantasy football, and I think he's the actual hitman. I think he's worse than you, Reedy. He took he did seven transfers the other day to change his whole team.
I mean, you know what?
I just love taking hits.
Yeah, I know we say I'm the hit man as such, and I probably take the most hits out of any of us lot. But you know, I just like to have fun with the game, and when you take these gambles and you go for these captain picks, you know, risky ones, so to speak, and they pay off, that the feeling's unreal. And you guys will know that in relation to my Champions League fantasy from last night. So it can pay off, but you know, there's people out there that are much worse than me, taking 12-point hits, you know, 60 plus, even more so than that. So listen, 8-point hit is the most I will ever go to. But I think this week 8-point is definitely not going to happen.
Also, sorry, just to add, for everyone that doesn't know, Jack did take a -24 last season. So let's just not.
There we go.
Was it game week 2?
Don't forget, it was my return to FPL after about 6 years away from it, and then second week I was like, what is this nonsense? I've just picked up Aubameyang in my team, and I think he started the trend. I just went, I'm just going to change my whole team and start from game week 3. So yeah, I was the original one, and then I didn't go back to that one, but I think it paid off, though. That did pay off, to be fair, but you can't be doing that every other week.
Reedy, what do you make of this comment from Wing Early? Says I need to take a leaf out of Reedy's book and do a -8 to get 2 good replacements and 2 good subs on my bench. You know, what are you making of that comment?
I think if it's going to benefit you moving forward, it's potentially worth doing. What you've got to look at, and it's the same principle for everyone who does FPL, is that hit. Are you going to get that sort of minimum return of the -4 back from that player? So, you know, if you're a little bit impatient and you'd rather, you know, not wait for players to be rising in price or getting injured and things like that, and you need to make the moves now, you know, you do it. You don't need to. I know we all sort of like to be in the top 10k or top 20k and all this sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, first and foremost for me, you enjoy the game, and if it's right for what your team, you know, what you need to do for your team, then you do it. You know, don't be too rash. Don't make the moves like too quickly. You know, have a little look around, and you know, there's plenty of information there on, you know, FPL websites and the like, where you can pull you know, stats. You can get injury updates before even the news conferences come out on a Friday. So I would say, yeah, make the move if you definitely need to. Just do it. No regrets.
Well, maybe I do need to take a leaf out of your book and you know, take a couple of hits and, you know, sort of get some replacements on the bench. It's definitely not bad advice, and you know, for the shape that my team's in at the minute, maybe I do need to. So we'll have to see how that one goes. I can't promise that it's going to be this week, and I can't promise that it's going to be ever.
Yes,
but,
do it. I'll do it.
We'll move on now. Ollie, are you here, mate? I'm not too sure if you can hear us or anything. You're in the space. You're on the stream now. We can't see you. But are you here?
I am, mate. So I've just got to have my camera off because of the setup that I've got. But yeah, all right, lads. Hope we're all good. Sorry I had to join a bit late. But you know, better late than never, as they say. Or I suppose some people will be saying better never than late, but I'm here, so have that. I've had a decent enough week, because if you're watching, and if you're not, then 62 points. Obviously, I took the hit. I mean, Elliot, I know what we're saying about your team take hits. I don't think an 8-point team, 8-point hit would save your team at all, mate. You're in the mud this year. Just thought I'd come on here and say that. But no, in terms of the way my team's looking, I tried a risky captain shout with Harry Kane. I said risky. A lot of people went with it. I decided to go with Kane, and Salah obviously scored. I was watching that game, just praying that Salah wouldn't score, and of course he gets a tap in because Arsenal were woeful. And Kane didn't quite blank. I remember I messaged Elliot. If I'm gonna take the mick out of Elliot, I must say myself. I messaged Elliot on Sunday night before the games, and I said, "Oh, I expect 30 points from Kane, captaincy, and Foden." They got me about 5, so that didn't quite work out.
Right here on my phone, I was ready to reel it off when Ollie was going through his team. He said, "Goal and comment. I'm off to bed, but Foden plus Kane captains, 30 plus points, I reckon."
Go on, show it up on the screen for the people that are watching. Show it up on the screen.
Charging so calm.
But
That's
look,
what he said.
I did say that. But look, decent week. I'm still like 20 points above you, Elliot. So your time might come to catch up, but it's not going to be for another 20 odd game weeks. But no, I'm happy with the way my team's looking, and hopefully I can keep accelerating and try and catch the guru up, even though that's going to be quite hard.
Yeah, well, because you are doing so well, Ollie. We've got a question from Quentin. Obviously, he says, "Is a -4 worth it this week to go Ronaldo to Kane and Chilwell to James?" So Ollie, we'll get your piece on that take.
Yes, I'd say yes. Just, I mean, I wouldn't be getting rid of Ronaldo personally, but obviously with the Chilwell injuries out for a while, so you need to be getting rid of him. And if that's if you can get to Reece James, then that might work for you. Obviously, Kane's got really good fixtures, but hasn't really been doing much in the league. And for fear of sounding like Reedy, I'm actually going to make a decision. So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, it is worth it.
We will go to the human fence because he is the resident hitman and the resident human fence. So does he think a -4 is worth it to go Ronaldo to Kane and Chilwell to James?
No chance. How many times have we got to bang on this drum to say that Kane is absolutely pants this season? Listen, be my guest. Everyone wants to go to Kane from Ronaldo. Ronaldo's still bagging goals, don't forget, even albeit it might more so be in the Champions League, but Ronaldo's the man, really, even in these big games. They've got Chelsea and stuff like that. They've just won against Villarreal quite, not confidently, because I did watch the game and seeing they were under pressure. But Kane he's still thinking about City. He still has dreams every night about Man City and Pep, telling him to, score goals, left foot, right foot headers. And unfortunately, he's not going to do it in a Spurs shirt. So I would stick away from that one and I'd more so go for the James for Chilwell. Personally, I think that's a great move. But I'd also look at Jimenez, alternative to Ronaldo if you're going to get him out. I think Jimenez is a great shout.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. Jimenez out there. He's been absolutely brilliant so far. And Guru's, because I don't want to know your opinion on the Kane thing there, because I think we could be in for an argument for quite a bit of time. I'll ask you this question from our very own Josh. He says, anyone thinking of bringing in the Chelsea strikers now, but Cardiff weren't back in the squad?
Werner, I wouldn't be looking at personally. Hasn't sort of done enough in the Chelsea shirt. Goals wise, Lukaku, definitely my eyes on him, but not immediately. He's got to get himself back to fitness, and obviously, break the duck again and get a couple of goals. I think for now, close eyes on Lukaku, but not someone I'm looking to get in immediately. So probably not right now. I think Reece James, and then the potential of maybe Alonso coming in is enough attacking threat from Chelsea for me right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Before we move on to your team, Guru, just a reminder, boys, I think they're saying that there's a bit of echoing. So if you can mute your desktops, we'll try and limit that for the viewers out on YouTube. I'm sure it's not for the space, it's probably for the YouTube. Just remember to mute your audio so that they can, they don't want to have to hear my voice twice. They only want to hear it once, I'm pretty sure. So if we could all just do that. But Guru, we'll move on to your team. 77 points this week, and it's because you had 2 Chelsea defenders. You had Chilwell and you had Rudiger. You must have been absolutely delighted with that.
Yeah, look, the Rudiger goal was a good start to my FPL weekend. When he headed that in. We did say that on the pod last week. I remember sort of Jack was mentioning Rudiger's record against Leicester. And I sort of mentioned Leicester's weakness at the back from set pieces, and and it was shown. Rudiger scored. Chilwell had a great game. So that was really good for me. Trent again with another big haul. So I was happy with that. I brought Gallagher in as my transfer for Gray. He returned, and then Jimenez, who I've had, since the Brentford game that Wolves lost. So I've had Jimenez through all of his, his goals and assists so far. So it's about 5 returns, I think, in 7 now for Jimenez. So yeah, he did really well for me. So good score, beat the average. So a couple of disappointments in there. There's a bit of work to be done. But I've got two transfers for this up and coming game week. So definitely got a couple of moves up my sleeve. But as usual, I'll be waiting for these press conferences.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't want to jump the gun, especially with European football this week. That is your weekly reminder there from the guru, just to wait as long as you can to make the transfers, because we never know what's going to happen. You never know what sort of injuries people are going to pull up with. But while we're on the topic of transfers, we will move on now to discuss our transfers for the week, boys. So we'll start with you, Jack. In terms of moves that you're going to be making this week, what have you got sort of planned in your mind?
Yeah, I've already made my move actually. So after watching the Guru's Scout 11, I've actually taken a bit of advice from him, which isn't unheard of. I do take a bit of advice from the Guru every now and then, even though Spurs, being a Spurs fan and giving me a bit of earache every now and then about United. So yeah, I'm going to go Reguilon. I've brought him in for Chilwell. So I've already taken him out and I brought him in. He's going to save me a bit of cash as well. So when I do make some moves, I'm probably looking like I'm probably going to take a hit next week and make a couple of moves, because I'm expecting Vardy to blank again and Burmo to blank again. So these two players are going to be coming out next week. So yeah, it just freed up a bit more cash. I'm excited just to try and see what Spurs can do. I'm hoping for a bit of a bounce from him. I love a lefty. I love a left back, and obviously he's playing left wing back. He's up and down that pitch. He scored last week. So yeah, expecting some good things from him. So Guru, this one falls on you if it doesn't work. And I'll keep reminding you about it. But yeah, going for the Spurs. Spurs double ups on its way with part of the plan. So I've had to shift that around, because obviously I wasn't expecting to take Chilwell out so early. But we've got to adapt to these injuries, and the game's coming thick and fast. So Reguilon, it's on him.
Yeah, absolutely is. And, those Spurs fullbacks under Conte, we saw what he did at Chelsea with Victor Moses and Marcus Alonso. So if he can do anything similar with Reguilon and Emerson, then I think FPL managers will rejoice in all of those FPL points that they will be giving out. So I think there's some really good moves from you there, Jack. Ollie, what have you sort of got planned for this week?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I'm in between two options. To be honest, I haven't really opened FPL since Sunday.
So, Ollie Walker Peel mind games. They're back.
No, I haven't, and I've had to rush to get into the space. So
this guy's relentless.
I've got two plans. I've got 0.8 in the bank, so I'm either going to. I've thought about getting rid of everyone's favorite 4 million starting asset, Tino Livramento, but I don't really sure if I want to do that. But what I'll probably end up doing is probably sidestepping from MacArthur and getting my bench ready for Christmas, which seems like such a boring move. A boring move, going someone from like MacArthur to like Allen or somebody, someone who obviously going to play, or a Norman or someone who gets 90 minutes every week just to make sure my bench is ready for Christmas, just make sure I've got a full squad in. Either that or I'll roll over. So I don't really know. I'm none the wiser. So come back to me at deadline.
It's a very elaborate plan for someone that's not checked FPL this week, Ollie. You sort of got some sort of some mind games on there, I think, because you're sort of planning it out there. You know what you want to do.
Mate, you know me. I'm not sure. I'm not showing my face, but you better than anyone should know me. I'm fully honest and transparent. I have absolutely. I'm none the wiser at this current point in time what I'm going to do. Look, maybe in 12 hours, 24 hours, I've got a clue. But with me in FPL, mate, I don't have a clue when it comes to FPL. Not usually, anyway. I'm having a half decent season so far. But I probably won't get rid of Livramento despite his tough run. So it narrows me down to either rolling over, doing an Elliot Craig, or getting rid of MacArthur to someone like Norman or Allen and being a really, really boring human. So it's down to that.
I think there's some good moves there, mate. Make sure you start checking that FPL a little bit more. Then you got to maintain that spot so you can.
Mate, you're 20 points behind me. If I'm not checking FPL, and you're 20 points behind me, then what does that say for you?
It's because it's rubbish, mate. You've been checking it all week. I absolutely know what you've been doing. Anyway, I think there's some good transfers there, mate, and it's a nice plan to get your bench ready for Christmas. As we saw with my team, your bench is so important. All these sort of injuries that are coming thick and fast, and with the games coming thick and fast as well, it's so important to do so. For me, I think I've got to get rid of Chilwell, and I think I'm going to go with Marcus Alonso. I just favour him over Rudiger ever so slightly at the minute. I know Rudiger's scoring a lot, but I think, if Alonso is a bit of a risk, but I think, he's the like-for-like replacement, isn't he? And Tuchel's known to like him. He's known to play him a little bit. So I think it's going to be Alonso for Chilwell for me. And I'm going to wait to see what's said about Rafinha. And if Rafinha isn't passed as fit, I think I'm going to go with someone cheap, someone like Conor Gallagher, who I've got my eyes on at the minute. I have been checking FPL this week, and I think he's going to be the one for me because he's got a fairly decent swing of fixtures. He's playing in that attacking midfield role for Crystal Palace, and he's managed to get Christian Benteke scoring with his sort of creativity. So there really isn't much that he can't do at the minute. So I think he's going to be in my team. 2 double-point hauls in his past 3 game weeks, and he obviously got the assist at Burnley as well. So he's on absolute fire, and Palace seem to be scoring the goals and getting the job done at the minute. So I think they'll be my transfers, just dependent on what happens with Rafinha. But as the guru always says, you've got to wait to see what happens at the press conferences. So I will do that, and we'll go from there. Reedy, what about you? What are you doing? A minus 20 this week, do you reckon?
Hey, no, no minus for me this week, El. It's boring, that, isn't it? You know what I mean? Sound like Ollie now, don't I? But yeah, so it's a difficult one. I've got Chilwell on my team. Do I take him out? Do I leave him in for a little bit and just look at other options? For me, I want to wait till those press conferences, primarily. But the 2 that I've got in mind at the moment are Foden for Jota, depending if Jota gets past fit. I like the idea that, Jota's getting that striker role at the moment. He delivered last week, of course, against Arsenal, which no one's really mentioned on the pod, by the way. We just absolutely, smashed them, to be honest. And these 1-0 wins Arsenal have been getting, it's not good enough, is it, when it comes to playing the big boys? So yeah, Jota's one, and the other one is potentially Jimenez. I just don't like the idea of having, if I bring Jimenez in for Hwang, is that a pointless move? Because basically I can keep Hwang and have that there because, they're playing Norwich. Or do we take out Jesus, who basically is just a guy who constantly does me head in for FPL. He either delivers when I've not got him or doesn't when I've got him. So that's it, really. Just those sort of thoughts at the moment. It's nothing too major, but no hits for me this week.
Yeah, and Guru, obviously, because people will have to go over to the YouTube to see what moves you've made this week, we do have a question from the YouTube live comments, and it's James or Alonso. Obviously 2 very attacking fullbacks playing in that Chelsea system. Obviously, James is that a little bit more expensive than Alonso at the minute, and we're not too sure if Alonso is going to be nailed on to start, but I think it's a pretty safe assumption to say that he's going to slip in at that left wing-back role. So what do you make of this one, Guru?
Yeah, for me, it's Reece James. The proof's in the pudding with him at the moment. He's just unreal. He showed it in the league this season. In every game he started, he's hit points. And he showed it against Juve as well the other night. And I think, out the 2, hands down, Reece James. I like Alonso's potential. But, if I've got to pick between the 2, it's got to be Reece James.
Yeah, I think that's a really good pick there. Obviously, I wish that I could, have the funds for Reece James, but I think if I want to have a strong midfielder still in my team, it's going to be quite difficult to do. But I'll work my way around it. I'll be checking the FPL app, unlike some people on the podcast, and seeing what sort of moves that I can be making. But they are the transfers for the week from us. In terms of captain picks, I think it's going to be a fairly unanimous decision. Jack, we'll go to you first. Who's your captain for the week?
I've got the armband on, of course, Mo Salah. I was thinking about Alexander-Arnold. What do you think? Anyone?
I like it. Fullbacks are the way
Yeah.
this year in FPL. They're getting the points. They're scoring lots. Cancelo, Trent, they're doing the business.
It's a great shout, I think,
that.
because he was rested in the Champions League yesterday. So he's definitely going to be starting and ready to go. So, it's paid off for a lot of FPL managers recently, putting the captain's armband on those fullbacks, the likes of Cancelo. So go for it, mate.
Yeah, I'm quite fancy. I think it'd be a decent shout. What has he got? 38 points in his last 4 game weeks. Been rested this week. Good fixture against Southampton. Home game. Maybe a bit of a differential. He's on fire, isn't he? Really. So I think I'm thinking about him. But yeah, if not, obviously Salah is the obvious choice. And yeah, vice captain on Trent for now, but that could change before deadline.
I think it's a really good pick, and obviously the majority of people will go with Salah, but if Trent's getting a goal and an assist, maybe then it's going to be interesting to see what sort of happens. And the bonus point system loves Trent because he gets so many crosses, gets forward. So I think it's a really good shout there, Jack. Ollie, in terms of your captain for the week, who are you going to be going with?
I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot again, but I think, and the Guru said this a lot, this is his time. This has to be his time. This has to be Harry Kane's time.
I thought you were going to say Alan. Was it not Alan's time?
It might be a late shout. 5 minutes before the deadline, I could put the armband on him. But this has to be Harry Kane's week. He has an immense record against Burnley, and to see him put 3 past Burnley would put a massive smile on my face. Reedy's not too keen on it because he's already had a Kevin Keegan style rant about Harry Kane and how he doesn't think he's worth it. But look, I've got faith in the lad. I think he might, get himself a goal. It's going to be Salah or Kane. At the moment, it's on Kane. There's nothing stopping me switching it, especially with how good Salah's been. He's been unbelievable this season. Probably the best FPL asset I've ever known. Southampton at home. At the moment, it's on Kane, but there is a massive chance that I'll switch it.
I think, if you want to be getting these... Do you know who Salah's playing? You haven't really checked the FPL app. Are you aware of who his fixture is, Ollie?
He's got Southampton at home. You little so-and-so. You little so-and-so.
It's good to see that you are checking it just that little bit then, mate. But, I think, it's those sorts of moves, that choice to captain Kane that can really, really, pay off. It's the risks, isn't it, in FPL that it's all about. So I think it's a good shout from you there. For me, it's going to be Mohamed Salah. He's tested and tried this season, reliable every single week, perma captain probably until he has. Don't even really know who I wouldn't captain him against in the league at the minute because he is on absolute fire. Scored again this morning. There's no reason to not stick it on him for me. Reedy, who's it going to be for you?
Mo Salah. Of course, it's got to be Salah. Look at that fixture. Everything points towards that. Yeah, right. We're going to get majority of FPL managers going for Salah. The other guys who are in the top 10k or 20k who want to make a bit of a difference are going to go for Kane or whatever. I think for me, it's probably going to be Salah. And if you don't go Salah, I think Jimenez is a great alternative if you're going to look outside the box, or even a defender like Jack's going for there. But for me, Mo Salah, 110%.
I think that's a good shout from you there, Reedy. I just don't see any reason why you wouldn't. And obviously, Guru, where can people find out who you've captained for this week?
On the YouTube, I got my team selection for this week. So head over there, have a watch. And I don't think you'll be too surprised at my captain though this week. But head over and check it out.
See who the Guru has ended up captaining. But that's a nice transition as we move on into the Guru section. So Matt, we will get your differentials, your teams to watch and your teams to back for this week. So we'll start with your differential picks. Who have you gone with, Matt?
Nice one, Elliot. I think this week I'm going to go. I'm liking Ben Davies. 0.2% owned with the Burnley game. If you're looking for someone that's just a cheap enabler, he's getting the minutes. Really, really low owned. He's actually getting forward quite a bit as well, which was interesting. He was overlapping Reguilon, which I didn't actually expect because I thought Reguilon was going to be the one, getting in the box a lot more, and Davies was actually quite close to scoring in that second half. So I'm liking him in that fixture, and also if you can get him in now, you've got the likes of Brentford and Norwich coming up. And then Another one who I'm not minding as well is Semedo. He looked really good in the game against West Ham. So he's 2.4% owned with Norwich away. So if you're looking for those kind of cheaper fullback options, you can't get into those premium ones. Semedo and Davies are quite good shouts. And then this season we've had obviously a lot of problems with strikers not getting goals. I think you could maybe go on a bit of a punt this week with a forward. And look, I'm going to back an Arsenal player, and Lacazette, who does like a home goal. We know that hasn't looked at his best, but he does just pop up with the odd random good score, and he's 1.1% owned, 8.3 mil at home to your boys Newcastle.
Yeah, well, I'm obviously not too fond of that pick. Obviously, Guru, you don't really have to ask for my opinion on that one, but I think all the other picks are really good there, and even the Lacazette one, with the way that our defence is looking at the minute, I think it's a really nice pick. In terms of your captain picks for the week, though, Guru, who have you gone with?
Salah is top of the list again this week, and I'm really liking the idea of Trent. So from the Liverpool game, I'm liking Salah and Trent. Raul Jimenez against Norwich, I think, is a pretty good pick. And then I'm going to back Ollie's shout, of course, of Harry Kane. He's got I know he's got a great record against a lot of teams, and he's not shown that this season. But Burnley and Turf Moor is a stadium that he does consistently show up at. So I'm going to go with Harry Kane. I think surely this is his time. It's got to be his time.
I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing as you, Guru. There has to be this week. It's now or sort of never for a lot of managers. I think with Harry Kane, the likes of Son, all those sorts of assets, even the fullbacks now for Spurs. I think it's got to be this week for Harry Kane. In terms of your teams to back, though, who have you gone with?
Really, obviously, got to go Liverpool at home to Saints. At Anfield, the form they've been on, the football they're playing this season. So I think from an FPL perspective, backing Liverpool is going to pay off. Another one I wanted to kind of pick someone a bit different this week, and I've gone Leeds. Away to Brighton. Was impressed with Leeds last week. Daniel James looked really good. Scored a goal in that game. He was unlucky again not to score in the second half. I was really impressed with him. Brighton actually haven't won for a number of games now. Their form's really dropped. So I think Leeds could be a good one with the likes of James and hopefully Rafinha coming back into the fold. And then my last team, I'll back Wolves. A couple of solid results for them, especially the West Ham one. Albeit I know Norwich did get their first win, but I'll back Wolves.
Yeah, I think it's a good shout there, and I do apologise. I think I missed your curveball captain there, Guru. So do you have a curveball for us this week?
I'm going to go with Reece James, although it might not sound like much of a curveball because of the form he's on. But I'll pick Reece James if you want to do something different to Mo Salah.
Just to spice it up a little bit, I think, the fullbacks in FPL this year, they really are stealing a lot of the show. So I think it's some really good picks there from you, Guru, and obviously always the best advice around. So we thank you very much for your Guru section there. Before we wrap up, we've got a few questions from the Discord, and just a reminder that if you're in the Twitter space, obviously, if you do end up following us, we can follow you back, follow for follow, and make sure you get your way over to the YouTube. All the details are in the link tree in the bio of the FPL Addicts podcast Twitter account. And as I was saying, the Discord link will be there as well, so you can ask your questions. But we'll get into them now. Seb asks, and we'll go to you for this one, Guru. Transfer Chilwell out for James because of the injury. How will the wing-back situation look going into this very busy run of fixtures?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? Because, the likes of Chelsea and Man City, they do actually have options there. So I definitely think you're going to get the games off them this week. It's just these midweek ones next week as City and Chelsea are going to rotate. So it's a difficult one in that aspect. I still think Chilwell to James is a good choice because even if he does play 2 of the next 3, you'd expect him to still get big scores. But it will be an interesting one with fullbacks. I think Spurs and Liverpool fullbacks are probably the safest for me. And the Chelsea and City ones, I can see some rotation there at some stage with the fact that there's 3 games in 7 days.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely mental. And just quickly on that, while we are talking about the fullbacks, Quentin asks Reguilon or Alonso from you, Guru.
Oh yeah, I'm going to go Reguilon. I do like Alonso. He's a great player, but again, can I see him getting all 3 games in the next week? As Plachetto, he was the one that was called upon last night. He's had a lot of rest as well over the last few weeks. So for me, I think Reguilon, his spot's pretty safe. Sessegnon, for those that saw the Leeds Spurs game, Sessegnon did come on at the end, and Conte said that he's really impressed him in training, Sessegnon, and he's going to play in the Europa. So that is an interesting one to kind of look out for. But I still think for now, Reguilon is the better pick from the two, and Conte has also challenged Reguilon to get more goals and assists. So I think Reguilon from those two.
Sorry, I completely forgot Sessegnon even existed. I thought he vanished off the face of the earth and he's just reappeared just for getting subbed on against Leeds at home. But I think it's a good point that you make there. You've got to, these cryptic sort of messages that managers send out. It's a bit like Ollie saying that he doesn't check his app. You got to sort of take him with a pinch of salt, I think, and just sort of make your own sort of informed decision at the end of the day. But we'll move on to the second question we've got from FPL Executive. He says, should we be rotating our forwards based on fixtures, i.e. Wilson or Benteke? And we'll go to you for this one, Jack. What do you think about sort of rotating these strikers that people can have based on the fixtures, sort of transferring them out, Benteke, Wilson, Jimenez, those sort of 7 million price point mid-ad forwards?
Yeah, do you know something? Like, I think I need to actually do this more with mine. Like, I've not really changed my forward line for a while. And I think now, with the Crystal Palace have come into their own, Newcastle, new manager, Wolves have obviously hit a bit of form. Do you want that value? I think you could obviously rotate them depending on the fixtures. I probably need to have a look a bit more at what the fixture run is like. I don't know what is Newcastle's fixture run any good in the next few weeks.
It's not very kind after Norwich, but we've got Arsenal this week, and then we've got Norwich. We've got a couple of green, but as soon as you get into the Christmas period, you want to steer clear of any sort of black and white stripes, because we have got the most horrible festive season you can put on someone, Jack. Yeah,
fair enough. And you're not exactly going to rely on Joe Linton there, are you? But I think make the most of the form as well of these teams. If Palace have got a good run of fixtures still, and if Benteke is hitting the goals, they've been rare for the last couple of years. Since back in his Villa days, was it? Since he scored, obviously probably the form he's in now. So maybe adapting to those fixtures week by week, I don't think it's a bad thing. But when these injuries crop up elsewhere in your team, it's tough to keep up with them without taking big hits.
It absolutely is. I think it's a really good point that you've raised there, Jack. A lot of people, including myself and you've just said, you sort of get caught up in, sort of holding on to these players when maybe they're not performing, and you've got to just make that rash decision. Reedy probably does it best with all the transfers that he makes. Just pull the band-aid off if they're not performing. In the forward line, there's so many strikers that haven't ended up doing it this season, but are definitely capable of doing so. So it's going to be interesting. And the final question we've got today is from FPL Commander. And he says, is doubling up on Walker or Alonso for a heavy December schedule such a good idea? And Ollie, we will go to you for this one. I'm not sure if you're too aware, but Christmas is among us. Maybe you haven't checked the calendar or anything, but we are in November, nearing the end of it. So we're nearly at the festive football period. So what do you think of that one? Doubling up on Chelsea or Man City fullbacks?
I mean, you've asked me the worst out of the questions that you've asked everyone there. You've asked me the one that's least relevant. So it's a great hosting work, Elliot. You've stitched me up yet again, Battle, because I haven't gone big at the back this year. I've steered clear of that. My managing style has been to go light at the back. But in saying that, with the way Chelsea and Man City have been defending, especially with the players that you've got there, I wouldn't be against it. In terms of whether to go City or Chelsea, they've got an all right run, I suppose, Chelsea, but their fullbacks have been, have got the headlines, and City's run's probably kinder. So it's a real catch-22. I maybe one of each rather than a double. So if you go someone like maybe Reece James and Cancelo, Reece James and Diaz, rather than going 2 of 1. And that also means, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket then. So if one side doesn't get a clean sheet, then your game week isn't ruined as such. I mean, there has been a lot of attacking returns, but potentially one of each might be a potential strategy you could go with.
I think it's a very good point that you make there, Ollie, but that is all we have time for today on the podcast. I thank you all for listening. If you're on the YouTube, thank you very much. If you're on the Twitter space, thank you very much. Just remember, all the information and all the details, everything is in the link tree in the bio of the FPL Addicts Twitter podcast account. So make sure you get yourself over there and you can stay in touch a little bit more. The Discord link, and make sure you're checking out all the YouTube content that the Guru is pumping out for this week. But until then, may all your FPL dreams come true heading into that game week 13. Take care, stay safe. Bye for now.